Avosai, welcome back to Yerushalmi Shekalim. The shit is Lila Nishmat. Yaakov Ben Rav Shimon is Yatzait today. We're up to Kav Zayin Amud Base. We are Gidul Bar Ben Yamin Shem Ravasi. Yeah, Shnei Dana Gezelas Naditzcham Shem Salishka. Various judges who used to judge on monetary things, they would take their wages from the Trumas Halishka. Some say because they were needed, like it's considered use of the korbanos because they would judge and class, people who do averas in the base of Mikdash, like Kainim who brought things which are possible. And some say other things. Hakrava was, what's stolen and what's possible for a korban, various things. But not other judges elsewhere in the country. Then just for these judges. Okay. Shmuel Amar. Shmuel said, "Noshim agas b'pareiches." The women who weave the pareiches, they get their reward from that. Rav Chuna Amar mitras bedek habayis, which is the general treasury fund, the fund for building work and so on. When people gave things stam without saying what it was for, they went for bedek habayis. Okay. Ma'aplik. Now, what are they arguing about? So Shmuel Avedle. Shmuel treats making a pareiches kekelim, like vessels, because they need it for the korbanos, like klishares. You sprinkle the blood on it and so on. And klishares come from Trumas Halishka. Whereas Rav Chuna Avedle Kabili, he says no, it's part of the building, because it's instead of a wall, and therefore it came from the bedek habayis. Rav Chizkiah said, Tana Rav Yehuda Gregorus. Rav Yehuda learned. This was his name, Rav Yehuda Gregorus. You have in Babli, you had a Yehuda Bar Gregorus. Okay. Haketeres v'chol kabanas hatzibur. So you got keteres and kabanas, buying b'Trumas Halishka. They would come from the Trumas Halishka funds. Mizbach hazahav v'chol kli shares, buying maneh ma'aser nesachim. They came from the leftover of the nesachim, of the wine, etc. All kli shares. Mizbach ha'ayla. And by the way, Rabbi Yehuda here holds like Rekiva. The klisharis are bought from Ma'aser Nesachim. Remember, there was an argument on that. Mizbach ha'ayla v'ha'hechal v'azarais, which is all the building structure. Ba'in mikebedek habayis is the other treasury fund. Chuz la'azarais, areas like the walled city, the towers. Ba'in b'shiyarei halishka come from the leftovers of the lishka. So the people things for the town of Yerushalayim is done from Hegdash because the whole town had kedusha as far as eating kodshim kalim. Yeah. So the walls of Yerushalayim came from the leftovers of the Lishka. Now we learned in a price that Avnei Yerushalayim, the stones that they were built in the walls of Yerushalayim, the towers, Merlin Bahen, they would be an Isa Me'ilah if you used it for your own purposes. Now, if you're telling me that these walls are coming from Shiorei Alishka, Shiorei is only the leftovers, it's after the main coins have been taken. Now, Rechiyesh Me'ilah b'Shivrayim, is there Me'ilah in Shivrayim? There's no din Me'ilah on that, on what's left over the remnants. So you see from the Brisa that the walls can't come from Shiorei Alishka. If there's Hegdash there, it must be some other Hegdash. So the Gemara answers, the truth is the walls did come from Shiorei Alishka. Now the Brisa which says there's din Me'ilah, that's like the other opinion, Rav Meir. So Rav Meir held, when you take the 3 lots of collecting the coins 3 times a year, whatever's left has still got kedusha. You can still go back later on and take more money from there for the korbanos, right? He holds there is a din me'ilah with the shirayim, with the leftovers after you've taken out the coins that you've taken out. Okay? Rav Chidna said, wait a minute. Now, Rav Meir only said his din as me'ilah with shiyarim, with the leftovers, that's the money within that year, because they're available for korbanos. But here, we're talking about we're talking about the leftover money from previous years. You can't use it for this year's korbanos anymore. And so with this, even Rav Meir agrees there's no din me'ilah. So the Brisa which says the stones has me'ilah, it must be that the walls do not come from the Shiorei Halishka, and not like Rabbi Yehuda Gregorus wanted to say. Rav Chizkiah said, Tana Rabbi Yehuda Gregorus, Hashulchan v'menorah v'mizbachos. So mizbach ha'ayla, mizbach ha'keteres, and the pareiches, ma'akvin as a korban. They are essential korbanos which are brought. If you don't have these things, are not kosher. Divrei Rav Meir, if you don't have a pareiches in place, if you don't have a shulchan in place, it's not kosher. The say, Ein l'chadav ma'akiv as a korban ela karkov v'keren. The only thing is the karka v'keren. Now this is like the ledge around the mizbeach. Is that what they call it there? And the horns, the corners, as it were. Yeah, the mizbeach had 4 corners, right? They went and these were ma'akiv the kabbanas because they didn't have mizbeach, karka v'mizbeach. Okay. Others learn the gear says kiyar, and the base for the kiyar. Some say that's the important thing. Right. I mean, how can the kiyar be ma'akev? And klishare is a kasha for kiddush yadayim raglayim. You don't necessarily need a kiyar. So it could be it's the place of them is ma'akev. It means that you can't have kiddush yadayim raglayim from other klishares unless the kiyar is in place. Maybe you still need the kiyar to be in place. Okay. Now, various amaroim. Now, the chayra is not like the chachamim, Amar, Rebbe Lezer, Rebbe Yisrael Chanina. Because Tren Amrin, they said, Kol hen dichsiv noichach. Now, whenever you find an expression of noichach, like where one of the things is facing, like the menorah, it says noichach ha-shulchan, right? Opposite to the shulchan. Ma'akev, then that's essential for kabbalas. And whenever it just says tzela, like the side of the shulchan, it says the shulchan, you put it on tzela safad, eina ma'akev, it's not essential. And even when it says tzela, ma'akev, it's ma'akev the kabbalas, and menorah, so even therefore the menorah is essential, and the shulchan. He says even where it says sima, it was placed, it should be placed there. Like most Klei HaMikdash, you should put them there. Me'akeves is also essential for kabbalas. So the shulchan, the menorah, the pareiches, mizbeach hazar, the kiyar, they're all essential. So all these amarim go against the words of the chacham in the Brisa who say they said only the karka, like only the rim and the ledge, and now we're saying everything is essential. So what's the answer? Amar Rav Chananya, kan ba'avodah shebifnim. Here we're talking about the avodah shebifnim in the heichal, like the ketores, the menorah, lechem hapanim, the various blood on the inner mizbeach. So then these kelim are essential. Whereas kan ba'avodah shebechutz, the Brisa is talking about avodah outside the heichal, like most kabbalas. So there's not ma'akev the kelim inside. Only you need the ledge on the outer mizbeach and the horns on the mizbeach. Rav Chanina said, "Shachsitz gedola hosbimnei kodim gedolim." It was a great pride, I dare say it, about my ancestors, the kodim gedolim. And we'd rather miss out this bit, but I'll have to say it. Let's see what they used to do. They would waste, spend money. Do I have to say this piece, Rabbi Isaac? I'll say it quietly. They would spend money on building a sort of ramp for the paraduma. Remember, we said each one would spend the money and build. They wouldn't rely on the one from last time. And that lechaira is not needed. Haya kivsha shel para I made, if the whole structure was still standing, like, they come and do a new para, and no one would take out their cow, paraduma, but kivsha shel chaver with their friend's one. Ela so they would demolish it. And they would build it afresh with his own funds. They do not treat with importance their predecessors. They have to build their own.
Maybe this is a way of showing such.
What?
Well,
the Gemara is not happy. You say that, but the Gemara of Yechanina is definitely not happy with it. Now, it came from pride, but now the Gemara is going to ask. But we've learned Shimon HaTzadik, he had shtei paras also. He had 2 paradumas. And he didn't use the first one for the second one. He got rid of the first one and he built the second one. Are you going to tell me, Islach Meima Shimon HaTzadik Sheikh, do you think he was proud? It has to be, there's another reason why they built it. So why did they do it? It's a covered, as you said. It's a covered they're doing. It's a covered. We want everyone to hear about it. Wow, they're building a new structure, right? Some say Maila. Some say it's the idea of Chumrah to prevent Chashash Tumah in case the previous ones got holes in the previous structure or something like that. The Sadokim held that Kohen Tul Yom, is possible for doing the para. The truth is, it's not like that. And the Chachamim said no. we should be matame the one who's burning the parah before he does it. He should go in the mikvah. He should do it when he is Tfil Yom. Dafka, we want him to do it when he's Tfil Yom, remember? And since they're involved a bit with the tumah, with the asiyas parah, they're worried there'll be a zilzul. They'll do it with the tumah, which is definitely possible. So they said everything else, they should distance from tumah as much as they can. And that's a milah. Okay, they try to make sure they wouldn't go over any tumah. Tani, we've learned in a brisa, zizin ukusalin hayotzin mikan mekan. So you had protrusions coming out from the ramp on the sides, mikan mekan, from the two sides. Kadesh le'atzitzu hakonim. The konim shouldn't look beyond the ramp to beyond it, and they'll be on top of the ground, v'yitamu, and they'll become tameh from things which are underground, which are tameh. Okay, Moisa shiore lishka. Leftovers of the shiori lishka, what do they do with it? They would buy wine and oil and flour and then sell it at a profit for other people who needed mincha offerings. That's what Rabbi Shmuel said. Rabbi Akiva said, no, you can't start making profit with the hekdesh and also not with the poor. Ela imradza, if a person wanted, he can make it tonight. Yehefsed shalai baschal hekdesh. So, if there'll be a loss, you can make a condition that if, let's say, this thing, I'll buy all the flour, and if it goes down in price, I'll take the loss, and I'll pay hekdesh whatever is needed, and the profits hekdesh will take, and then you're allowed to do business with hekdesh if you'll cover all the losses. Kahadol, like the following story, Bazamina is pakid gabe medadi yasmin. He was given money of orphans. Asked the shoulder of money. He came to ask Ramona, is he allowed to do business with that money? Amalei and Ramona said, if you will do it in a way that the loss will be yours and the profit can be shared, if you make that condition, then it's permitted to do business with their money. So although the Mishnah of Rabbi Akiva learned, usually you can't use money of hekdesh, so also you shouldn't use aniyim money, but here he allowed him to do business like this, where the loss will be on him, and the orphans will only get a share in the profits. So the same thing, you can do this even with the hekdesh as well. Rabbi Akiva equates the two. Rabbi Chia Barada is pakit gabei madadi yasmin. He was given money of orphans, and he did this. He made business. He made a condition, he'll take on all the losses. Now, in the first part of the Mishnah, Rabbi Shmuel said, the leftover sheri lishka, they would buy wine and oil and sell it at a price and make a profit that way. And the schar would go to hekdesh. Rabbi Akiva argued, he said, you can't make a business with money of hekdesh. And then he says, Rabbi Shmuel said, leftover of the fruit goes to kait samizbeach. Now, what does he mean by this? Kula de Rishmahi. This did Rabbi Shmuel in the Sefer, about Moisa Peres, you're using for kait samizbeach, is a continuation of what he said at the beginning. The leftover shari lishka, they would do business with the wine and the oil. Hekdesh will get the profit. And then, and this profit would be called Moisa HaPeres. And he tells me that Schal HaHekdesh, which he said, it means you would use it for Kait HaMizbeach. That actually is the profit we're talking about. Now that's also like the explanation of Rechir Bar Yosef. Rechir Bar Yosef, Pasuk Masnisa, he explained the Mishnah. Moisa HaPeres, what does it mean? It's Schal HaHekdesh. It's the profit that Hekdesh gets from selling flour, which was bought in Shari Lishka. And that's what Rishmael mentioned above. Moisa Nesachim, when Rabbi Akiva mentions that, Zusar Ravis. That is the profit by buying 4 sar of Nesachim, where it was agreed a price of 3 originally, and because the price changes, and the profit that comes about from that sale is called Moisa Nesachim. Now another opinion as to what Moisa Peres says and what Moisa Nesachim is, Rabbi Yochanan Pasuk Masnisa, he explained like this: Moisa Peres, which Rishmael mentions, Usar Ravis. That's the extra sar when prices go up or down. The Hekdesh receives when you get 4, when it at a price of 3. And Moisa Nesachim, which Rabbi Akiva mentioned, is Legbe Rutzim. Now this is when you heap up the measurements. Yeah, if you're providing flour for the flour offerings, you would measure with a heat measure. You would fill up the container a bit above the edge even. And the Cohen, he sort of takes a handful, which is the Shefa Menachas, and the extra flour above the measure, that's Moisa Nesachim. Okay, so now, let's let Rabbi Yehuda Bar Yosef Birutzim. Does Rabbi Chia Bar Yosef hold that the Hekdesh should get some profit out of these extra measures? Surely they would get that. So why does he learn in the case where he doesn't fit in like that? He explains our mission in a way where he doesn't say like which Tana it is. Rabbi Chizkiah Bar Yosef holds he says, look, the din with the fourth one, when it goes up in price and you get the profit that way, that applies with the over measures as well, with the heat measures. So our Mishnah, which talks about Moisa Nesachim, there's an argument, that could also go on Saravias and also Birutzim as well. It's all the same idea, isn't it? It's like a heat measure is a slightly more, and they get benefit that way. Now, that seems to be that our Mishnah is a Kunja B'chir B'Yosef, and not Kunja B'Yochanan. Adar to the B'chir B'Yosef, Kunja B'chir B'Yosef, the Moisa Peres is this profit that Hekdesh makes from business in wine, and like Rishmal said, Nicha. So I understand the end of the Mishnah, that Rabbi Akiva and Chananis and Kohen, they didn't agree to Rishmal with the Peres, because they argue on Rishmal, and they hold aim is sacred Hekdesh. You can't do business with Hekdesh. Afla Mishalaniyim, or nor with the money of the poor. Like Rabbi Akiva said at the beginning. So according to them, there's no Moisa Peres, because you can't do business with it. Lefichach, that's what the Mishnah said, Zeh B'Zeh, Rabbi Akiva and Chananis and Kohen, they would not agree to Rishmal the Peres with this Moisa Peres. I'll die to Rabbi Yochanan Kasha, but according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's difficult. What is Moisa Peres that Rishmal is talking about? Some profit that Hekdesh makes with the fourth Tsar. But Hartaninan, we've learnt that one who takes upon himself to provide flour at a given rate, say 4 sar for a seller, Amdu Mishalash, if the price went up and now it's 3 sar for a seller, Yisapek Ma'arba, he still has to provide the 4 as agreed from the beginning. Now this, no one argues here. Sounds like everyone agrees that Hekdesh will now have the 4th sar. But Taninan, and yet we've learnt in our Mishnah, Zer v'Zer, Kiva v'Chanan ben Akainim, Lo Moedim Peres, would not agree with it. Now the Mishnah says, Rabbi Kiva and Chanan don't agree to Rishmal with Peres. With the 4th sar, it sounds like everyone agrees. So it must be the Peres of our Mishnah is not the 4th sar. There must be something different. And not like Rabbi Yochanan who want to say they're all the same. So the Gemara answers, really, the truly Moisa Peres mentioned in the Mishnah is the 4th sar, like Rabbi Yochanan explains. And when we say both of them didn't agree with Peres, it means Rabbi Kiva, they wouldn't agree to Rishmal that money of the 4th sar, you should use it for Oila offerings. They did agree that you can use that money of the 4th sar when you've made that profit, but according to them, it goes for buying Kli Shares. You hear that? They didn't agree that it should be used for Karbanos, but they do agree that you can buy Kli Shares. So according to all opinions, Hekdesh would earn money with the extra growth, the fill up, the froth on top, as it were, when you filled the kalim a bit more. And according to Rekiva, this money would go for Kli Shares. Ad Kedod Birut Seit Tzibur. I understand this extra amount, which was in communal offerings, because it belongs to the Tzibur, to Kli Shares, coming from the Tzibur. Afilu Birut Seit Yachid. Do we say this extra amount also goes for Kli Shares even when it comes from an individual? Then the kalim are coming from an individual. So the Gemara answers, from an individual, you can buy Kli Shares. Tani, like that, we've learned in the Brisa. Isha Sha'asas, Kasainas Libna, she made clothes for a Kohen Gadol, her son. Kashera is kosher for him to use it. She has to provide it and give it over to the tzibur. Although the Kohen's clothes needs to come from the tzibur, since this woman is giving it wholeheartedly for the tzibur, it's kosher as if it's coming from the tzibur. So these over measures, the overfills at the top of the keli of a private carbon, the individual is giving it for the tzibur, is kosher to buy Kli Shares. Ad kedud beirut selach. That's all very well, the extra fillings of like wine, oil, because they become holy. You know, even though the mashkin, which is a bit higher, I mean, it all goes to Katz Mizbeach. Afilu beirut yabesh. But the truth is, even dry extras, the flour, also belongs to Hekdesh and goes to the Katz Mizbeach. So it might not be inside the keli, right? It might have been on top. The flour might go a bit up beyond the sides of the keli, but it's still considered holy. Ka'idit Tanina Taban, like we've learned in Tosai Sefta in Menachos, Birutei Lech Kaidesh, the extra amounts of liquids are holy. Birutei Yabesh Chulin, extra amounts of the solid are Chulin. Belama Birutei Lech Kaidesh, why the liquids are holy? Because the liquids, sort of, they're anointed from the inside. Belama Birutei Yabesh Chol, but the extras from Yabesh, from dry solids, is not holy. Was this? It wasn't, I don't know, on the inside, the outside. It says here, with Yabesh, clean midas of Yabesh weren't anointed. With liquids, he holds like Rabbi Yossi, although they weren't anointed only from the inside, but the birutzim, this overfill, is also holy because of the liquids. Some change the girsa. Some say they were anointed inside and outside. It might be like the view of Rabbi Kiva. Whether these vessels, and you've got these measures, whether liquid or solid, if there's another carbon that needs nesachim, yakrivu ima, you can offer up these extras with it. The imlav, if you don't have another carbon that needs nesachim, yimachru, you sell them, and the money goes to kaitzim mizbeach. So you see in this brisa that even the extra dry belongs to hekdesh, and it goes to the mizbeach. Okay. Okay. We said even the kelim which were put in place on the akev. So they say the aron, the mizbeach. How did they bring karbonos and keteres when the aron was captured? Until Shlomo built a Beis Mikdash. There was no aron in the Mishkan. So how did they bring karbonos? I understand Beis Mikdash Sheni, there was no aron. Maybe it was hidden in the Beis Mikdash, but you couldn't see it. So some learn, even the Sima is Ma'akev, the aron is not Ma'akev. They had a Mechitza of its own. It wasn't Ma'akev, even for Avodah of the Heichal. Maybe it wasn't so essential if the aron wasn't there. Okay? Right. What do we have here? We had Rebbe. What did Rebbe say? We had that bit. Rebbe said, Omer Ani. We had that. I'm not sure. Okay. Right. Ma'isa HaKeteres. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Ma'isa HaKeteres. So you've got Keteres left over at the end of the year. We can't bring it in the new year because it was bought from last year's coinage. So what would we do with it? What do we do with it now? We separate an amount to pay the the payment of the workers of Hekdesh. And we redeem the Keteres, which is left, our mice, on money to pay the wages of the workers. And that way the Keteres gets redeemed, as it were, and it goes to Chulin. Okay? And you machalel it. We couldn't just put it straight on money, and this money go and buy Keteres, because it doesn't look very good to sell it and go and buy it back. So it's better, we don't want the Keteres looking like it's going to Chulin. It seems just with Keteres they were worried. It looks pretty bad with Keteres to just sell it and buy it back. We don't want to do that. Tomid could be redeemed. Animals, many times you could redeem it with a blemish. And even if you're redeeming it without a blemish, it's not so public. But Keteres, it never goes to Chulin, only now, so it looks a bit bad. Also the Telaim, the Tamidim, the animals, it's different. You can't tell it's gone Chulin, not gone Chulin. Keteres, you're not allowed to make it in its amounts, right? For an individual. And now you're taking it away from Hekdesh, so it looks pretty bad. Okay. The Guinness Varadim brings a rich man who made a silver keli to use in the shul for the festivals, and then he wants to sell it. The Gabaim said his Hekdesh belongs to the shul, and then they checked. It doesn't have a din Hekdesh, it can be sold, but it's better. Although it mutter, you're allowed to make it chulin, it's good that you shouldn't melt it down. Just send it to the Gabbai in the shul, like they did with Shiora Keteres. So try and find out another way of transferring its holiness. So, and we can give the Keteres, which is now chulin, lo'omnin b'scharon. We can give it to the workers with their wage, as their wage, instead of the money. And then we buy it again from the workers with the money with Truma Chadasha from this year's coinage. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, if Rosh Chodesh Nisan was in its proper time, like 30th day from the beginning of Adar, we can buy the Keteres straight away from the workers with the money of Truma Chadasha, of the new Truma, which we're separating Mim Lav, but it wasn't. Basically, Rosh Chodesh Nisan, maybe it was the next day, on the 31st day, then we can buy the leftover Keteres from the workers with the money, Manei Yeshana, from the old money. Now, they would be Mechalel the Keteres on money which was there set aside to pay the workers, which is money of Hegdish. So it sounds like they're Mechalel on money which is, as it is, holy. So how can you do that? How can you be Mechalel on something holy on something else which is also holy? So Lonis a Hegdish Mischalel al Hegdish. Therefore it's getting Chilul on Hegdish. So how can you do this? You can't be Mechalel Hegdish on something which is already Hegdish. So what do you do? That humility died. So Rabbeinu HaKadosh was muflag, right? He had so much humility. When he said Omar Ani, it's like someone who says it appears to me, it's my view, right? He's not deciding for sure that the truth is like him. He's saying if you accept it, then you accept it. Okay. Ruchir Baba asked, if Hegdish didn't owe these workers money, for the old year's work, then what are you going to do now with the money of Machalel that left over the Keteres? We use it for oil offerings when the Mizbeach is empty. We have a contradiction. Then his question with money was in doubt. He's not sure about it, what to do with it. Here he's sure that the money goes for Kaitzim Mizbeach, right? So he knows what to do with it. But elsewhere, he wasn't sure what to do with it. So you know why he had a question about it? The klisharis, that's the use of money for buying klisharis. That which he was sure about, but Kaitzim Mizbeach is for the use of money for the Oila offerings. So he always knew you can use this money for Oila offerings, but he didn't know if you could use it for buying klisharis. Okay, this question, if Kedushas Maisa Keteres is fitting for buying klisharis, depends on an argument. Let's see. This Palgun, we have an argument. Amarai, Pitzma b'chulin. If you made the Keteres in chulin kelim, which are not klisharis, Rabbi Yosef he said Pasula, you can't offer it up. Where the Keteres needs kiddush kli in a proper keli. Sure, but Levi almost said kashera is kosher to use. Keteres doesn't need a keli to prepare it. Right, so he wasn't sure about this, didn't they, arguing? So he had a suffix, is there Kedushas Maisa Keteres on fitting to use it to buy klishares. If the Keteres needs a proper keli, then the leftover Keteres is like something holy through klishares. And, it's, you can use it, therefore, to buy klishares. If, however, it doesn't need a keli, holy keli to make it, then the leftover Keteres is not something holy through klishares, and the money should not be used to buy more klishares. Now the Gemara brings the source of Yosef Chanina, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi about whether Keteres needs Kiddush Kli Shares or not. Ma'atam Yosef Chanina, he says, why is it that he holds it's possible? Because he holds Kodesh he Shedei Biyasa b'Kodesh. It should be Mekudeshes and the Kli Shares from the beginning holy. Ma'atam Yosef ben Levi, why is he hold the Keteres, which is Nas B'chol, why is it kosher if it's done in a keli which is not holy? How does he use his pasuk? Kodesh he Shedei Ba b'Trumas Halishka. It's holy that it should come from the Trumas Halishka, the funds, right? It's going to come from the tzibur, not from an individual. I don't need to tell you that it needs to be holy from the very beginning. Rabbi Yosef Ribon, Omar Rabbi Yosef Ribon, Asya to Rabbi Yosef Chanina Kivishmuel and Rabbi Levi Rabbi Yochanan. So let's see now. So we're seeing now Rabbi Yochanan is like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that Keteres doesn't need to go in a holy keli when it's made. So Tanina, we've learned Hamagdish Nechasav. Someone who makes Nechasim holy without saying Bizbeach, Medek Habayis, and the din is, if your Korban is Medek Habayis, or Hayben Divine Bruin Le Korban is Tzibur, if there are things like animals, Rabbi Yochanan Hamag Keteres, Rabbi Yochanan said, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it could be you'll find, it's Keteres. If there's Keteres coming from an individual, if it's fitting for a tzibur, so basically holds Keteres is not holy in the klisharis, is still kosher to be Keteres for the tzibur. That's what Rabbi Yochanan holds. So what's this again? So v'hayba and dvarim ruin a common tzibur, then use it for common tzibur. Rabbi Yochanan said even Keteres, it could be Keteres as well. Now, what does he mean? One who's making things holy. He can't mean other things not Keteres. So what are we saying? Keteres doesn't need to be made holy. Rabbi Yosef Chanina held Keteris has to be made holy. So he explains like this. Tifta, he explained the mission that family who made the Keteris, they would take Keteris as their reward, as their wages. And this Keteris was in their holy Rishus, and then you can explain the mission it was made holy in a holy Keli, and then it came to an individual as Chulin. You don't have to say that it was made not in a holy Keli and it's kosher. No, it could be it was made in a holy Keli. Okay. Rabbi Yezer Hanina, his view is like Shmuel. Shmuel, that the grinding of the Keteres that made it holy to make the Simonim holy. So basically the Keteres needs to go in a holy Keli at the time of the production. Okay? Let's see here. Alright, I think this is anywhere. Oh, we'll carry on. He said, now something which is made holy in a Kli Sharis, and how are you going to redeem it? And the Mishnah says you would be mechalel it on money, and the Keteris goes to Chulin. So it sounds like they didn't do it in a holy vessel, because if it's a holy vessel, how are you redeeming it? How are you doing it? So it seems to be not like Shmuel. Amalei says, Shmueli. Isn't this Shmuel who said this, that the Machteshes, the grinder, was a Klisharis to make the Keteris holy? So there's no question to Shmuel, it was a leniency with Karbona Sibur, which were left over, that you can redeem them even though they got Kedushas Haguf. Yeah, you hear that? It's a special leniency, you can still redeem it. That's what he held. He's lenient with Pidyon of Karbona Sibur. This Palgon, we have Machlokes Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan, Hasiru Tamimim. I think, you know what, I'm going to do this next time. I know, but I'm going to go over it again. Okay. I'll go over it again. We'll go over this again, this onward. We'll go back to Rabbi Yochanan Keteris, something like that. Okay, Rabbi, say to be continued.